Hi everyone, I think we are live. All right. Welcome to another one of our LinkedIn Live events. Today's topic is going to be on how to effectively resolve conflicts in romantic relationships. Now, this topic is something that I haven't had the chance to talk a lot about, but I do tend to coach a lot of my clients around this, and I get a lot of questions around how to actually effectively resolve conflicts and how to actually deal with not only just conflicts, but uh, issues in romantic relationships in general. Because believe it or not, this is one skill that is not taught to us, when in reality this skill, how to actually be in relationship, how to actually navigate conflicts, how to actually navigate being in a relationship with a person, is one of the biggest parts of our life, if not the biggest part. Right? You tend to stay with your parents for the first 20, 22 years, 23 years of your life, in case you haven't gone out of your city to study somewhere. After that, you spend like 50, 60 years with your partner, right? You start a family with them, you share your finances with them, you share your life with them, you share literally everything with them. So the relationship you have with your partner is one of the most important things that you need to pay attention to. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody has a bigger impact on your career, your success, your finance, your mental and physical health as much as your partner does. So the relationship you share with your partner is incredibly important, and unfortunately the most least talked about topic, right? Specifically speaking about in Asian countries, and coming from the country like India, we don't really talk about how to navigate romantic relationships, right? Our milestones are measured in someone getting married or someone having a child, and not really in how happy is a person in the relationship. So a lot of times people feel that they have to suppress their issues because they feel embarrassed about it. They feel that nobody is having problems out there. Why am I having a problem in my relationship? And that is why a lot of issues stay suppressed. And as you all know, and I've spoken about it so many times, that anything that does not get addressed go deep in goes deep inside your body and becomes a physical and physical health issue and mental health issue. Because trauma lives in the body, right? When you don't deal with trauma, it goes inside your body, and it creates a house there, and then it comes out as diseases. So before we start, I'm just going to quickly see if my audio and video is working fine. In case you can see that it is fine, just let me know. And how our live events usually go is that I explain to you a topic, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me while this event is going on. And if you are seeing this as a recording on YouTube, I tend to upload all my live events on YouTube. Then you can just ask a question in the comments section of the YouTube, or you can just DM me on LinkedIn, and you can ask me a question there. I think we are live and the audio and video is working. Okay, yes, it is working fine. So we can go ahead. All right. So before I talk about how do we actually deal with conflicts in romantic relationships, I want to first discuss romantic relationships a little bit. So a lot of people think that when it comes to romantic relationships, like relationship with your partner, somehow you automatically will know everything, how to deal with it, how to get on with it, how to actually have a nurturing and healthy relationship. When in reality, statistically speaking, like at least in India, a lot of people still do not date or actually have not been in long term meaningful relationships before they actually get married, right? And because an arranged marriage setup is also a pretty big thing in India, what tends to happen is that you don't really know the person you are getting married to at an extent that you really should, right? It's more of a an arrangement rather than a relationship where two people are in love and they know each other well enough before you're actually committing to them, right? So because a lot of people still do not have had long term meaningful relationships, they don't really know how to navigate the nitty gritties of being in a relationship. See, just because you've had a 3-day event of a wedding doesn't really mean that you know the skills to be, or you are equipped with the emotional intelligence to be in a meaningful relationship, right? So you have to understand that romantic relationships are different than any other relationships. That's the first thing you need to understand. Why? See, because the relationship you share with your parents is different, the relationship you share with your friends is different, the relationship you share with every other person is different than the relationship you share with your partner. The relationship that you share with your partner is not only intimate on obviously a physical aspect, but also on a mental, emotional, and a spiritual aspect, right? The kind of space you share with your partner is far more intimate than it is with anyone. So you cannot ever walk into a romantic relationship, or in case if you are one right now, maybe you're married, or maybe you are about to be married, or whatever committed relationship you're in. You need to understand that you cannot come from a place that this is who I am, take me or leave it, or this is how I've always been, or my parents don't seem to have an issue with me, my friends don't seem to have an issue with me, so why do you have an issue with me? So when you come from a mentality like that, you tend to ignore a very fundamental aspect, that your partner, the relationship you have with your partner, is very, very different from the relationship you share with anyone. So that's the first thing you need to understand. So never ever come from that ridiculous expectation that just because I have had different types of relationships in my life, like friendships and the relationship I share with my parents, that it's going to replicate the same thing in my romantic relationship with my partner. It's not going to happen, right? For example, the relationship you share with your parents is a far more I would say unconditional and a little bit less two-way than it is with your partner, right? Your relationship with your partner is actually not supposed to be unconditional, right? There needs to be some conditions, there needs to be mutual respect, there needs to be a mutual give and take of things, and not just things going one way, right? That's the kind of relationship you can only expect with your parents, and your parents owe you that because they gave birth to you. But that's not the case with your partner, so you can't expect your partner to be your mother or your father, right? So to have that kind of expectation is extremely ridiculous and unreal. The next thing is that the relationship you share with your friends is also very different with that of your partner, right? You're not sharing your life with your friends essentially, right? You share good times with them, you also share bad times with them, yes, definitely. But the relationship you have with your partner is just very, very different. So again, please understand the very first thing, that a romantic relationship is different from any other relationship that you're in. So then there needs to be no comparison, right? Okay. The second thing you need to know is that your partner will believe what they see and hear, and uh, basically, whatever they see you do and whatever they hear you do and whatever is visible to them is what is they're going to believe, right? Which means that you are acting a certain way, right? And you're thinking a certain way, and you want your partner to read your mind. That's not going to happen. Okay. See, your partner has not known you their entire life, right? Most likely it has happened that you have met when you were an adult, but they don't really know your entire life. So you can't expect that you are acting a certain way and your partner should somehow read your mind. And this goes for both men and women, by the way. A lot of men do not communicate their needs to their partners, and similarly a lot of women do not communicate what's bothering to them to their partners, and then they expect that the partner should somehow be a mind reader. Similarly, if your partner is feeling unloved in your relationship, but you are trying to explain to them that, okay, I love you through my mind, like you're always on my thoughts and stuff like that, it doesn't work, right? Your partner is going to see what is visible, right, and what is audible, and basically what you're doing, and that is how it should be. Because people do not your partner does not know you, right? And love is an action. Okay, love is not just thinking that, okay, I love you. That's not how it works, right? Love is an action. So whatever is visible to them is going to actually be visible in general. You cannot act a certain way and then think the complete opposite. Similarly, you cannot act a certain way and feel a certain opposite and then expect your partner to feel that, okay, why doesn't this person understand me? Because there is no coherence, right? You're thinking something else and you're doing something else. For example, let's say you like to tell your partner that you love this particular person a lot, and yet there is nothing you actually do to show that love, right? There's nothing really there. And of course, everybody has different love languages. So whatever your love language is, right, there is nothing present, and you're trying to convince your partner that yes, I do love you. It's not going to work. Okay. What you think and feel is not really coming or translating into actions. So that's another thing you need to really, really understand, that what you do and what is visible is far more important than what you think and just feel. Okay, because it is in your brain and in your body, not in the other person's brain and body. Now, the next thing you need to understand is how to actually love your partner is a skill that you're going to develop by first understanding your partner without bringing in any judgment. Second, understanding your own self as well, right? If you don't understand your partner and if you don't understand yourself, the skill to actually, how do I love my partner in a way that this particular person does feel loved, is not going to develop, right? So just to introduce this concept a little bit, and I'll probably talk about it later in some of my posts and live events, that we all have a love languages, right? If you've never heard of what is a love language, you can just Google and type, you know, different types of love languages. So essentially, I think there are five or six. There's words of affirmation, gifting, physical touch, and acts of service, and I think there's a couple more. So all of us like to express love differently, right? For example, let's say you are someone whose love language is physical touch, right? You like to touch your partner a lot more, and that's the way you like to express love. Whereas your partner's love language is gifting. They like to plan things for you, they like to gift you things, and they remember small things about you, and they bring you and buy things for you. That's your love language, right? So when you don't understand your partner very well, you what may happen is that you may compare your love language with them, and you may think that yours is superior, and somehow theirs is inferior. And this is something I've seen happen a lot to a lot of couples. So the point is that how to love is a complex topic, right? And in fact, the very fact that you're maybe watching this video, as in you're trying to learn how to actually learn how to resolve conflicts in my relationship, tells me that you are trying to grow. So it's a great sign. But how to love is a complex thing that you learn over a period of time. But the moment you commit to your own inner growth, the moment you decide that I want to be a better person, and I want to be a better version of myself, not just for my partner but also for myself, automatically your relationship also improves, right? See, obviously everybody has some or the other issues, but the parameter of a successful relationship is that are you able to grow out of your issues, right? Are you able to resolve it, and are you able to move forward? And you cannot resolve an issue if you refuse to grow. So if you are someone who's working on your inner growth, then that's the best gift that you can give to your partner. There's this quote that I remember, and I don't remember where did I really read it from, but it said that the best gift I can give you is my growth, and the best gift you can give me is your own growth. So when you are growing and when your partner is growing, that's the best thing you can give to each other, because then you both become fluid and flexible, and you both are receptive to each other. So conflicts don't really either happen, or even if they happen, they come and go about. It doesn't really become like a very significant issue. So, now that we understand a little bit about romantic relationships, now we're going to move forward to how do we actually resolve conflicts. Now, again, based on the dynamic you share with your partner, based on how long you have known them, based on what is the chemistry you have with them, it's going to differ. But for today, I'm going to cover about 7 to 8 points that if you are able to answer this, you're going to have a fairly accurate picture of what is going wrong and how can actually correct it. So, again, before I start, I'm going to quickly check whether there are any questions so far. Okay, we don't have any questions so far, I think. All right, let's move forward. So, the very first thing for whatever conflict you're having right now with your partner, the very first thing to define is what is the conflict actually about? Now, this may seem like a fairly obvious question that, why is Riansh even giving this question? Obviously, we know what the conflict is about, but you'll be surprised just how many times couples fight over something else, but the issue is completely something else. Let me give you an example. So, I was working with a client about 6 to 7 months back, wherein this particular client of mine had gotten married to her longtime boyfriend of about, I think 5 6 years, and it was a love marriage, and they knew each other since their college days, and they got married. And suddenly after they got married, they started having a lot of conflicts, right? My client was not very happy with the habit of her partner indulging into smoking and drinking. She was not a big fan of it, and her partner had a lot of anger issues. So there was a lot of clash. There was a lot of clash to a point where they felt that they might have to separate just a few months after marriage, right? So when we were talking about this particular issue, the one thing that I asked my client is, what do you think is the issue really about, right? And she told me that he doesn't want me to, like, he doesn't want me to tell him how to live his life, and he doesn't want me to tell him what to do, what not to do, and he doesn't respect me, and he doesn't do this and stuff like that. So when I heard a lot of things, I asked her that, have you actually spoken to your partner about what makes him so angry, right? Because here the context was that my client had known her partner for a while. So this particular issue wasn't really there when they were in a relationship before, like when they were dating, right? So a sudden onset of anger just because you got married is a very sudden shift in someone's behavior. So I encouraged her to have a conversation. I also gave her certain questions she need to ask, and they had a very good discussion. And then we realized that her partner, her husband, was actually feeling very suffocated, in a sense that he felt like it was a huge, like marriage was a huge shift, and he had to share his space for the very first time. And that stress was also causing him to smoke and drink a lot more. And when my client would tell her husband to stop that and stuff like that, it made him feel that she was trying to control him, and it made him feel more suffocated. And this led to him lashing out. And when my client told him about his sudden shift of behavior is scaring her, and it's making her feel that she doesn't really know him enough, he understood the issue that my client was feeling actually lonely in the relationship. So, like when they were fighting, the fights were about my client blaming her husband that she doesn't respect him, and that he doesn't respect her, and the husband would say that she is trying to control him, and that why can't she give her space. But in reality, the issue was that the husband in this case felt like there was a huge shift in their life, and he wasn't able to cope up with it because he was used to living a pretty single life, a bachelor life. Whereas my client was suddenly feeling that I'm feeling lonely in this relationship, or that why is my partner not listening to me, or that why are things not as smooth as they looked over the phone or when they were dating, because they didn't actually have a live-in relationship, right? They weren't living together. They were in a relationship, yes, and a lot of it was also long distance. So the issue was actually the initial adjustment period that they both were not doing well with, because there was a lot of communication issues as well. So the issue was something else, and the fight was about completely something else. Similarly, there was one more couple that I worked with, not couple, a client actually. And I told him how to resolve his conflicts in his relationship. So he had a conflict that his wife didn't really pay attention to him, and he felt really lonely and very cornered, and that would get him very frustrated, so he would shout at her. And when I again encouraged him to have a conversation with his wife, and we did this conversation 2 3 times, his wife revealed that she feels very overwhelmed because they just had a child, and she feels very overwhelmed, and she feels very scared that her career might never go on track. So she was feeling really lonely, and a little bit even depressed as well about everything that came along with the second child that they just had. And my client had no idea that his wife was going through this, right? So the moment they had conversations along the lines that I encouraged my client to, there was a lot of opening up, and they both could empathize with each other, right? So they started going on weekly dates, and my client started helping his wife with finding jobs, and letting her know that he is there for her, and she doesn't need to feel that her career is never going to restart again and stuff like that. The point is that the fight was about something else, right? My client told me completely something else, but the issue was completely something else, right? My client was feeling lonely and cornered, and feeling like his wife is not giving him attention, because he didn't really understand what his wife was going through. And his wife felt that why is my partner not being supportive towards me, right? Why doesn't he understand that I've gone through such a huge transformation? So when there is no effective communication between both of you, you can miss the actual issue, right? Just because your partner is lashing out, just because your partner is being a certain way, it doesn't really mean that that is always the issue, right? So a very good thing to actually include in your communication with your partner is to ask them that, is this really the issue? Is there something else that's going on? And being more attentive to what are the shifts that is happening in your partner's life, because that is going to inform you of what could be a shift in their behavior. Now, the second question that I want you to think about is, who is this conflict actually affecting more? Now, what do I mean by this? So, a lot of times, couples also fight about things that aren't actually affecting them or the relationship, but there's a third party, or a third, or a situation from outside that's involved, right? For example, let's say if you've just gotten married and there's a lot of interference from your in laws or some relatives, right? So, you could fight about an issue wherein in reality it's not actually affecting you, it is a third person that is affecting you, right? Or for example, let's say you are talking about something, or you have fights over something that isn't really present right now. For example, a lot of people fight over political issues, a lot of couples fight over things that has nothing to do with each other, right? So try to see that, who is this conflict really affecting, right? This is from a third person perspective. Second is, it's also very important to see that whatever the conflict is right now, how is it affecting your partner, right? For example, let's say that you and your partner are fighting about whether you want to stay with your in-laws or not, right? So you have to ask yourself that if this were to happen, right, how will it affect me and how is it going to affect my partner? For example, let's say if you're a woman, your partner may say that he wants his parents to live with you, and you feel that it may affect my freedom, let's say, right? So you both need to talk about how exactly is the situation going to affect each other, and come to a conclusion of what is the solution going to be. For example, if you feel that my freedom may go away if I live with my in-laws, and you may have to sit down and talk to your partner about it, that these are the ways that I think my freedom can be taken away, and you guys need to come up with a action plan as to how can that be avoided. Similarly, if your partner tells you that I really want to live with my parents, then you have to come up with a mutual decision. However, I highly recommend that before you actually get married, there are certain topics that you need to talk about with your partner, specifically living situation, how the bills will be split, which is the financial side of it. And third is like about children, whether you guys want to have kids or not, and when do you want to have kids, and how many kids do you want to have. And the fourth is that where is your life really going in the next 5 to 10 years, because oftentimes people split majorly because of this, right? People grow differently, people have problems either with money, or there's a living situation problem where there's a sudden shift. And the next thing is that people feel that, okay, I didn't know that this person wanted this or did not want this. So there are certain topics that you really really should talk about with your partner before you actually get married, so that there is a lot of clarity. There will be small issues here and there, of course, but the big things in life, right, like kids and finances, because again, money is one of the biggest reasons why people actually also break up and also get a divorce. And the second is kids, and third is growing apart. So when you have an idea of the big things and big stuff about your partner's life, then you can see whether you guys are actually aligned or not. Okay, now the third question I want you to ask yourself is, do I understand my partner's perspective? Which means that have I actually put myself in my partner's shoes and thought about what must he be feeling, what must she be feeling, why did he react this way, what could have gone into his head, why did she react this way, what could have gone in her head, what could she be feeling about this particular issue that is happening, what could he be feeling about a particular issue that is happening. Oftentimes when we don't understand a partner is because we don't know actually how to think like them, we don't know how to empathize with them. For example, let's say that your partner is someone who is an introvert, and let's say you are an extrovert, right? So let's say your partner is not a very big fan of always going out on the weekends, and he doesn't appreciate very loud things and all that stuff, and you like going out and you like entertaining people, right? So let's say that you invite a lot of people without really talking to him, right? So he gets irritated, or he feels distant, and he doesn't feel comfortable, and you have a fight about it. You may feel that oh my god, like, it's also my house, why can't I invite people over? And he may feel that, why doesn't she understand that I don't like all of this is also my house. So the point is that you need to put yourself in the shoes of your partner and think and feel like them, so that you have an understanding of where your partner is coming from. Because lack of understanding and lack of actually feeling what my partner is feeling is why a lot of conflicts actually arise, because you refuse to understand what your partner is feeling, and this particular person also refuses to understand that. So if you are aware that there is an issue that's happening, try to put yourself in your partner's shoes and think and feel like them. What must they be feeling that they reacted this way? And then come up with a solution, right? Because in a relationship, it's not you versus him or her, it's you versus the problem, both of you versus the problem, right? So it's very important to know that you and your partner are in the same team, it's not in the opposite team. So empathy and empathizing with your partner is incredibly important. Now, the next question that I want you to ask yourself about the issues that you're having is this: does this particular conflict have an objective solution? Now, a lot of times, because of unresolved issues, because of unresolved trauma in the relationship, because issues being ignored over a long period of time, couples fight purely because there's a lot of anger and sadness and resentment, not really an actual issue. For example, let's say that you both are fighting about, let's say, what is a washing machine brand that we should bring in, right? I kid you not, I have seen people fight about it, so it's a very real issue, right? So when you fight about something like this, or anything, to be honest, you need to ask that, is there an objective solution to arrive at a particular decision? Because when there is a lot of emotions involved, right, you are in the heat of emotions, you are feeling angry and hurt, your partner's feeling angry and hurt, the issue goes to the side. It all becomes about, how can he talk to me like this, how can she talk to me like this, he doesn't understand me, she doesn't understand me. So the issue is not getting resolved, right? So you need to ask yourself, is there an objective way to arrive at a conclusion? For example, let's say if a couple is fighting about what is a brand that we should buy for a, washing machine, you sit down and you talk about it. That this is why I want this and this is why I want it, and you come to a mutual conclusion. That's an objective point of view. For example, let's say that a fight is about, what school do we want our kids to go to, right? Let's say your partner says that I want our kids to go to private school, you believe that no, private school is a bit more expensive, I want them to go to uh, a school that's not very expensive. So you list out the pros and cons of what you both are talking about, and you come to a mutual resolution, right? That's an objective way of solving it. But when you come from a place of a lot of subjective emotions, right, that how can he say like this, why doesn't he understand that making money is so hard, and your partner may say that education is the most important thing, we shouldn't be looking at money. So what's happening is that you both are wrapped up around your own emotions, so the issue is not getting resolved, right? And when the issue is not getting resolved, it can again be something that goes onto the pile of the existing issues that already has. So try to see whether you are resolving issues that are coming up in a marriage, because it will, right? Objectively or subjectively, are you both actually sitting down and talking about what is it that you want and what is it that your partner want, and you're talking about how can we come to a mutual decision, or one or the other person is trying to dominate the conversation? What exactly is happening? So objectivity is very important when it comes to conflict resolution, even in relationships, specifically in relationships, because there's already a lot of emotions involved. Now, the next question I want you to ask yourself is that, how often do you and your partner meet halfway? What do you mean by this? Now, oftentimes it can happen. See, first of all, you need to understand that the best way to resolve a conflict is to meet halfway, wherein your partner is also getting something they want, you are also getting something you want, right? And it is in every situation. For example, let's say based on the food that you want to eat, the school that you want to send your kids to, the movies that you want to watch, the type of people you want to hang out with, everything, right? It's very important to meet each other in halfway. If there's a very stark difference in almost everything, then the relationship is bound to fall apart, because the you are going to feel that my needs are not being met, your partner is going to feel that my needs are not being met, and we don't want that, right? So you need to ask yourself, how often do we meet halfway from each other, and why not, right? If in case it's not happening, why not? This is going to reveal to you whether you are letting your needs slide and your partner's needs are always on the top, or maybe your needs are on top and your partner's needs are a bit suppressed. This is going to give you an idea of what exactly is happening in a relationship. A lot of times what can happen is that, let's say if you are in a relationship with a very vocal person, and let's say someone who's a bit more confident than you, then they can sometimes dominate the relationship, and they can very well express their needs, whereas if you are someone who's passive, then you may suppress yourself. Or if, let's say, you believe that no, I need to sacrifice myself, then you may not really talk about your needs. And over a period of time, it can turn into a lot of resentment, because again, it's not your partner's fault either, because you're not really expressing yourself, and it's something that you are not talking about, so your partner feels that, okay, this, my partner is satisfied. So the resentment can build up inside of you, thinking that why can't my partner understand, and your partner's thinking that, oh, my partner's happy with it, right? So the point is that if you guys are not meeting halfway, then you need to really think and sit down and think about it. If you are the one who's suppressing your need and your partner is getting, let's say 80 to 90% of the times what he wants or she wants, then you need to start being more vocal. Now if you have an issue being vocal, you can get coached around it. Similarly, you need to see whether I'm the one who's dominating the relationship, where whatever my partner says, I tend to dominate the relationship, or that I only want things my way, or I'm not allowing my partner the space to talk about his or her needs. So be as objective as you can. And a good exercise to do is, like, think of the last 10 instances where you guys had to make a decision. It could be as small as, what dinner do you want to eat, what movie do you want to watch, for example, you went out somewhere, or for example, there's a decision you took of the household, or let's say if you are not married, then it could be about going on dates and stuff like that. Look at the last 10 instances and see how many times did you guys meet halfway, or maybe it was that sometimes you listen to him or you listen to him and sometimes he listened to you, right? And vice versa. So it needs to be more or less equal. See, 65-35 is okay, 60-40 is okay, 50-50 is great, but it should not be 70-30, right? It should not go to a point wherein most of the time one person is being dominant and the other person is not really expressing their needs. Because even though someone is not expressing their needs, it doesn't mean that they're not building it up inside. A lot of times I've seen that one of the person in the relationship builds up a lot of resentment over time, and then all of it just comes out one day, and the other party is also dumbfounded and they think that, oh my god, why didn't you say all of this? And the person is feeling that, no, now I'm not in love with you anymore because my needs are not being met. So to save the situation from going that extreme, see how often do you guys meet halfway from each other, right? And try to be objective with your case and your partner's case as well. Okay, I'm going to see if we have any questions so far. Okay, we do have a question, but it's not exactly related to the live event, so I'm not going to answer that right now. Okay. We had one question, but it's not related to the live, it's something else, so I'm not going to answer it. All right. So let's talk about the second question, which is, in conflicts, like during fights, do you respond to your partner with the love language they prefer or something that they get very irritated by? What do you mean by that? So we all have love languages and we all have a way where people can reach us, right? For example, let's say your partner is someone who does not appreciate loud languages, loud voice, right? He or she gets very irritated when you speak to them in a very loud tone. So during conflicts, do you do that? Do you take a very loud tone to explain him something? If that is the case, then there's a very high chance that even if you're making sense, objectively sense, your partner will not actually respond to it because you are speaking to him in a way which triggers him. Similarly, let's say you are someone who does not appreciate being passive aggressive. If someone is being passive aggressive with you, you don't like that. Is your partner doing that? Is your partner not being direct with you and being passive aggressive with you? So even if he is making sense, it may not reach to you because he's being passive aggressive. So it's important for you to tell him that our conflict is not going to resolve if you keep on being passive aggressive with me, so I want you to be more direct. So check whether in the during the conflicts, are you guys talking to each other in a tone, in a language that is not reaching to you? Because it is not always about the solution of the conflict, but also how you're communicating the solution. If the way you're communicating the solution is triggering the other person, the solution is not going to land onto the individual because they are already triggered and they're going to feel like you're cornering them. So sit down and try to see that what are the things that my partner does not really appreciate, right? For example, if it is loud voice, passive aggressiveness, or maybe let's say your partner does not appreciate you guys fighting in public and you tend to bring up issues in public, or maybe let's say you don't like it when there is a fight before having food and you tend to do that. Let's say your partner does not like that. So whatever it is that your partner does not like, you may try to avoid it because again, it's not going to lead to resolution of a conflict, right? It's going to trigger them more. So try to resolve conflicts in a tone and a language that your partner will actually respond to. And you can also communicate the same to your partner, right? That whenever you try to talk to me in this XYZ way, it doesn't work with me because I get triggered. For example, let's say you are someone who does not like to fight in public. So you can tell them that when you fight in public with me, or even if you're trying to make sense objectively, even if you're right, when you do that in public or when you do that in front of people, it triggers me, it makes me feel insulted. So it does not land well with me. So if you want to resolve an issue with me, you take me on the side and we'll talk it out. So communicate to your partner what triggers you, and also ask your partner what triggers them, right? Ask them that what are things that I do that you feel that kind of triggers you in the conflict that you're having. Because most of the time, most conflicts that you will have with your partner, unless and until it is about a really big thing like infidelity or uh, you know finances, or let's say it's a major abuse thing and all that, unless and until it is not about that, most issues can be resolved if the language and the tone of both the partners are right. So try to be mindful of that and try to see, am I triggering my partner by the language and the tone that I'm using? And it goes both ways, right? See whether your partner is also doing that. Now, the next question that I want you to think about is, have you actually communicated to your partner in depth what is the issue, how it is bothering you, how it could be avoided, and what is the solution? These four things. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to my clients where they have told me, and I've asked them this question directly: have you, in detail, just the way you have told me, you've told your partner these are the issues? Have you told them why do you have an issue with it? Have you told them how could they have avoided it? Have you told them what is the solution? Have you actually communicated your distress? And 80 to 90% of the time, the answer I've gotten is no. I have not communicated to my partner. So you get offended, you start overthinking, you become aggressive, or you stop talking to your partner, or other coping mechanism that you deploy, but you are not actually telling your partner what the issue is. So how the hell is your partner going to resolve it? How the hell is your partner going to actually understand that this is an issue and I need to work on it? So please see the issue that you have with your partner. Does your partner actually know that this is the issue? Have you spoken to the person in depth about it? For example, let's say that your partner has a habit of making fun of you in front of your family, right, or in front of his family, and you don't like that. And instead of telling him about it, you decide to stop talking to him, and you decide that I'll not talk to him and I don't like him, and stuff like that. And you go back to your house, and your partner is wondering, why is she not talking to me? And you are the one who's wondering that he should know, but he doesn't know, right? What is normal to him is not normal to you. Similarly, what is normal to you is not normal to him. And again, vice versa. I'm just using him or her, but it can be a completely opposite situation. So have you actually spoken to your partner that when you do this does not sit well with me? It may be funny to you, but it is not funny to me. So you need to stop that, because this is something that I get triggered by and it makes me angry. So you need to tell your partner your exact emotions, so that they can understand the impact their actions are having on you. If they continue to do that, then there is a separate conversation that you talk to your coach about, that how can I deal with it. But the very first thing is to actually let your partner know, because in most relationships your partner does love you, right? In most relationships you do love each other, and when you love each other and you know that your action is causing a certain amount of distress to your partner, and your partner has communicated to you with it, you will not repeat it. Or if not repeat, you will be very mindful of it, right? So the frequency will go down. But it is not going to go down if your partner doesn't know how it's making you feel. So how in depth are you communicating with your partner about how certain conflicts are impacting you? Very, very important thing to consider. Now, the next question that I want you to ask yourself is, what is the solution to our problem from a third person's perspective? And when I say third person, I mean either a professional, for example, you can go to a coach, or someone who is a very neutral party, like not your family, not his family, and not your family, not her family, but a neutral perspective. Either someone who is a professional, I highly recommend that. Like, that is the most objective thing and most professional thing you can do. But let's say a family friend who knows both of you equally. So when you have a certain issue and you are able to think like a third person's, like you're able to go to a third person, or you're able to think like a third person, then you get a very objective solution to a problem. For example, let's say that you are in an abusive relationship where your partner is let's say emotionally abusing you, and you somewhere feel that whatever is happening is not right, but you keep on thinking that your partner will change, right? And this goes on, where in reality, if you go to a third person who has good intentions for you, and you know what, even forget good intentions, just a third person who's neutral, who's a neutral party, or someone who's a professional, they will tell you what the reality of the situation really is. Oftentimes we get emotionally very wrapped up into our issues and we don't really know what is an objective solution to it. So another great question you can ask yourself is that if whatever it is that I'm going through in my relationship, my sister would be going through, or my brother would be going through, or my best friend would be going through, what advice would I give to them? Answer that question exactly, and you will know what is the way out and what is the solution out. And this can be for grave problems as well as minor problems. Now, the last question that I want to talk about is the conflict that is happening in question requires adjustment, compromise, or it is crossing the boundary? Now, a lot of being in a relationship is actually adjusting, right? Adjusting and accommodating with the other person's behavior. Adjusting and accommodating, you can call it on a scale of 1 to 10. It lies between the scale of 1 to 3, right? As in, the most primary level of adjusting could be that your partner doesn't like tomatoes. So usually when you're cooking for the both of you, you try to not add tomatoes to his dishes, right? So that's level of adjustment of 1. A third level of adjustment would be that your partner's parents visit you again and again, and he is someone who prefers his parents to come to visit you, and you are okay and you adjust with it, like let's say 2 weeks in 4 or 5 months, right? That's a 3 level of adjustment because it requires you to change your lifestyle a little bit. That's okay, right? Adjusting in a relationship is a part of it, right? That's also one way you show your partner that you love them. 4 to 6, I would say, or 4 to 7 is compromise. Compromise is something that should happen very rarely in a relationship, right? Now, compromise, a lot of people use compromise and adjust in a very interchangeable way. See, compromise is something where you are crossing certain boundaries for yourself to accommodate your partner, and that should happen very, very rarely in a relationship. For example, let's say that uh, you are someone who does not want to live, let's say, with your in-laws, okay? And let's say your in-laws are sick, right? And your partner actually wants to care for them. So you make a compromise that you will live with your in-laws for a few months or for a year or two. That requires you crossing certain boundaries of yourself, but not to a point where you're completely compromising your identity, right? And these instances should happen very rare in your relationship, that you're compromising. It will happen obviously when you're with someone for like 30, 40 years. Compromise is going to happen somewhere, but it should not happen so often that your entire identity is being changed, your entire personality is being changed. So never confuse compromise and adjust. Adjusting you can do often, right? Like adjusting with someone's diet or a little bit of habit changes, the way they exist, their social life. A little bit of adjustment is okay, but compromise is something completely different. Compromise is a bit bigger than adjustment, and that should not happen very frequently. Or if it is happening, it should happen on an equal level with your partner. Now, the last part of the equation is actually crossing a boundary. Whatever conflicts are happening in your marriage or your relationship, is it crossing a boundary? For example, let's say your partner keeps on taking financial help from you and they don't return back the money, or you feel that somewhere they're taking advantage of you. Let's say your partner is being abusive towards you and disrespecting you. There is physical abuse, or maybe sexual abuse, or emotional abuse, and it is crossing a boundary, right? That does not come under compromise or adjustment. That's clean crossing a boundary, right? And that is where you need to know that this conflict is a deal breaker. A lot of times, specifically long term relationships, the lines become very blurred, okay? You start to think that you're just adjusting, when in reality someone is crossing a boundary for you. For example, let's say infidelity, right? Maybe if you have been in a relationship for just 6 months, you would break off your relationship if it's infidelity. But if you have been with someone for 5, 6 years, you may not. So the line starts to get blurred. So you have to be very, very open and very honest with yourself, that what is happening with my conflict. Is it an adjustment issue? Is it involving me compromise? And what level of compromise am I doing? Right? Is this compromise very often that's happening? Or is this compromise a rare occasion, rare scenario? Or is my partner completely crossing a boundary? And that's the same thing that applies to you too. Is it whatever it is that you are asking your partner to do, does it come under adjustment? Does it come under compromise? Or does it come straight under you crossing the boundary? Because this is going to tell you the severity of the conflict and what is the approach you need to take. If it's an adjustment thing, then that's okay. You can talk it out, you can come to a mutual conclusion. If it's a compromise thing, you need to see how often it is happening, because compromise should not be happening very often. In fact, it should be a very rare thing, very rare thing, right? There will be certain phases in your life where you will have to compromise. For example, let's say you had a child, so one of you will have to compromise your career on a little bit. I will not call it adjustment, because you know, deciding to slow down your career is a pretty big shift, so I would call it a compromise. But that's a very once in a lifetime kind of a thing, right? And crossing the boundary would, which is where infidelity, disrespect, abuse, any kind of abuse, financial, mental, physical, sexual, or other kind of abuse, or lying to each other about major things, all of this comes in a different category. So based on the severity of the conflict, you need to decide that what is it that I'm going to do. And the best thing, and if you feel confused, is to actually hire a coach for yourself and take professional help. Because the more time you waste being confused, the more you lose out on your confidence. So one of the biggest thing I've seen being in like toxic relationships, or basically being in a confused state in a relationship, right? Even if there's not a lot of conflict, when you're in a very confused state in a relationship, you not only waste your time, right? You start to lose out confidence for your own self, right? Because over a period of time you feel that, okay, I've been in this for so long, so let me just drag through. So over a period of time, it leads to a loss of confidence, a loss of your self-esteem, and you start to lose respect for yourself. And that is something I don't want you to go into, because it's very difficult to come out of that cycle where you lose respect for yourself just because you stayed in a relationship for too long. So if you feel confused, and if you feel that I don't know what to do about my relationship right now, and I feel that I don't really have a lot of clarity, I don't know what I want, then simply take help, right? Taking help for a few months can save you decades and decades of your time in a relationship, as well as your own mental bandwidth. I help my clients through deep trauma work, when it comes to relationships. So another thing I want to mention, that is that the kind of partner we attract in our life and the kind of relationship that we have in our life is based on the love that we think we deserve, right? So we often put up with certain relationships purely because we think that we deserve it, or we believe that I will not get better than this. And it is a result of, okay, I'm so sorry. It is a result of you having a trauma bond with your partner, right? And I actually wrote a post about it today. And also, if you have never understood, or if you don't know how actually childhood trauma affects you, your relationship, and you in general, then you can go through my free 4-day bootcamp that I did on healing childhood trauma. You can just DM me bootcamp, or you can also find the bootcamp on the featured section of my profile. But uh, you have to understand that your unresolved childhood trauma plays one of the biggest roles in your relationship. For example, if you are someone who's always felt that you are not a very charming person, and you, let's say, marry someone who's an extroverted person who is likable by everyone, then it can be very difficult for you. It can make you feel that, my partner gets more attention than me, or my partner is this or that and stuff like that. So your own unresolved trauma can take a very big toll on your relationship, where you may end up blaming the partner, but the issue is actually you. So when you get trauma informed coaching done on you, you get to work on your own childhood trauma, you get to work on your own patterns, you get to work on your limiting beliefs. And when you overcome this and when you heal this, the vibration of the relationship goes higher. So when the standard of the relationship goes higher, your partner will also meet you here. Right? It will pull up the standard of the relationship. When you both are vibrating low, then the relationship standard is down to the dumps. When even one of the person improves, it gives the sign to the other person that, oh my god, I have to either match this person, or I have to change my behavior. So when you do the healing work, you heal the entire relationship, because the dynamic then changes, right? So if you need my help for your romantic relationship, or any other professional or personal issue that you're struggling with, and you want to do deep inner work, because I don't do surface level work with my clients, I will not give you hacks, I will actually do deep transformative work with you. And if you're interested in doing that, you can just DM me coaching and book a one-on-one session with me, or you can find the link to book a session with me in my LinkedIn bio on my top mate page. And if there is a question that you have that you would like me to cover in my live event or in my post, or you would like my opinion on, you, my DMs are always free for you, and you can always text me. Thank you so much for joining, everyone, and I will see you probably after 3 days for another one of live events. Bye bye.